Welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin, joined by Gordon today. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com is our email address. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. That's right, Gordon. I don't know if you've been listening when Lincoln and I host, but each episode he calls out a different streaming method, and he says, I wonder if anybody listens from Stitcher, Spotify, what have you. So we started a trend in the email inbox where people just screenshot where they listen to the podcast and send it in. So last time Lincoln said Stitcher, who does Stitcher? And then we got some emails of people sending screenshots in. But what we really need, we appreciate that. What we really need is questions and topics. All right, folks? That's what we really need right now. Because Gordon wants to talk about the NBA today.
Winter is coming, and we don't know if there's any running in the winter. So we definitely need topics to talk about. I mean, I made a joke about how this week is NBA week on the FloTrack podcast because at noon, which we're recording this before noon today, the moratorium is lifted. Then we get the draft on Wednesday, got free agency on Friday. This is like the greatest week in NBA. This is probably the best week of NBA behind the first week of NBA playoffs, I would say. Which is crazy that a sport can make transactions and drafts and trade rumors and free agency more interesting than the actual sport that they play.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy?
It's because it involves everybody. Isn't that part of it? Most of the teams don't have any illusions about winning the title once they actually start playing the games. But every team thinks, oh, man, we can get that person, or maybe we can make this trade, even though 90% of them aren't going to do it.
It's true. Well, this weekend, a lot of track went down, right? We had like news. We had legitimate news. It wasn't like bare bones just talking about some random Twitter troll on a Thursday with Grant Holloway. We actually had people run, people lose, people win, people get caught again. What should we talk about first?
Let's talk about this cross-country race featuring Paul Chelimo because we previewed it a bit on Friday. Lincoln and I did. We found out about it at the last minute. I thought he was going to roll here, but he ends up getting upset by Mason Ferlic. My question to you: Does Mason Ferlic now own the Paul Chelimo Mason Ferlic rivalry that we didn't know existed?
No. Well, so here's the question: did Paul Chelimo get beat, or did he fly out to Terre Haute to collect an appearance fee?
Did they give him an appearance? This event gave appearance fees?
Why would he go to Terre Haute, Indiana to run an 8K in November? There's no reason.
Get those reps in.
He definitely, there's definitely, I mean, I don't know. I could be completely wrong. But there's definitely had to be a monetary reason for him to get on a plane to go to Indiana. To fly to Indianapolis, then get in a car and drive an hour to go somewhere where it's cold and run on grass in an event that means nothing towards your Olympic aspirations against a bunch of unattached college kids. There had to been some cha-chings to get Paul Chelimo to come to that meet. That's what I think.
Okay.
And I think he was like, whatever, they want me. They want to say I'm running. Sure, I'll show up. I'll jog. I'll win if I want to, but like if someone else shows up, like Mason Ferlic, and starts hammering the final K, it's like, hey, I'm not about that. Go for it. I'm just here to get my cha-ching. I don't want to twist an ankle. I mean, this is just me speculating, but that is definitely a possibility that he didn't. No disrespect to Mason Ferlic. Ferlic is a great athlete, but come on, 100 times out of 100, Paul Chelimo wins that race if he's trying. I think.
You know, when you analyze the results, which is what I did, I took a deep dive in here because I wanted to answer the question that you're posing to me. Was this Paul Chelimo going easy, or is Mason Ferlic now a medal contender? And you're right, Ferlic, he's good. He's a good runner, and he beats Chelimo by 10 seconds. But then you look at who's right behind Chelimo, and that's where I have some questions. 1 second behind him, Morgan Beadlescomb. Also 1 second behind him, Jack Meyer. Jackson Sharp. 3 seconds behind him, Shoaib Ajabale. 4 seconds behind him is Olin Hacker. So I'm
It's all
thinking,
Wisconsin guys.
yes, and I'm thinking Paul Chelimo is better than the Wisconsin cross country team. So I'm thinking that this was a controlled effort. Ferlic got in front of him. Then pride set in and said, do I want to get beat by Wisconsin's cross country team? And he said, no. And he finished in front of all these guys. Some Michigan representation there as well. So I looked not just who finished in front of him, but who finished dangerously close to him. Those guys have a great story now. Those guys who finished 1 or 2 seconds behind him, and they probably have pretty cool pictures to show for it too. So maybe a win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah, if Paul Chelimo, though, at cross country hasn't really been nice to him. Let me try to find how he did at NCAAs in cross country. So he got 82nd in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
He got 10th in 2012, but in 2013, when he was supposed to be one of the top guys, he gets 82nd. You know, Mason Ferlic also hasn't had a good cross. Remember when Ferlic kind of sucked in cross country? What did he get? It's always funny. It's not funny, but like interesting when like there's like this guy who's like good, and then they get like dead last in cross country because it's just what. Oh yeah, Mason Ferlic in 2015 got 67th. So
Okay.
after check this out. So Chelimo in college got 10th and then 82nd. Ferlic in college got 13th and then 67th. So it kind of shows that cross country is a really weird sport where like you can return as a top 15 guy and then just be like lose to a bunch of nobodies, which is kind of wild. So anyway,
so you're saying he might have been inspired to not lose to the Big Ten by all-star team here. Yeah. That was enough to get him across the line.
I don't know. I mean, are there splits? I think he just ran in the front, and then Ferlic was like, "Here we go," and then Chelimo was like, "I'm not about that. Like, I'm just here to collect my paycheck and go eat at the local IHOP down the road or whatever." So
there are splits. You want the splits?
Yeah, split me up.
There's the splits. 1 mile, Paul Chelimo in front, 440. Next, Ferlic and Beetlescum right there, 441. Tom Brady in fourth at 444.9. Second mile.
Michigan's Tom Brady, for the record.
Michigan's Tom Brady.
Which just also happened. And what are the odds that there's a cross country runner named Tom Brady who goes to Michigan, the same school that Tom Brady went to? That's wild.
Yeah. And now runs for Tampa Bay Athletic Club, which is pretty crazy. Weird turn of events too. Mile 2. Paul Chelimo, 931 in the lead. Mason Ferlic, 931.6. Also 931.6 is Morgan Beetlescum. So the three have separated. They have 10 seconds about on the next group, which includes Braden Law, Brady, Hirsch, Sharp, Mao, etc. Then we go to split 3, which I'm assuming it's past 3 miles because the time is 18:38. So it's past 3 miles here. Split 3 is 18:38 for Ferlic. He's tied with Chelimo, Beetlescum right there, and there's still 10 seconds to the chase pack. Split 4, which is only 2 minutes later. So I'm guessing this is this is probably around mile 4. Probably a little past it. Ferlic, Chelimo, Beetlescum, all at 2:20. And now the pack has caught up to them, Gordon. The chase pack's only 6 seconds behind them. Right. So 2:20. Right. So the last from split 4 to the finish is only 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Chelimo ran it in 3:32. Ferlic ran it in 3:23. So the last K, little more than a K, he put 10 seconds on Chelimo. So it's exactly how you described it. They were together, and then he kicked away in the last few minutes. and then won. And then the pack was coming. So he held off Beetlescombe, but then that next group of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 were closing quickly because they were 10 seconds back previously in the race, and they only ended up about a second back.
Yeah,
there you go.
I mean, we just got to look at that play by play. If you don't rewatch the race, you can just listen to this podcast and bring up Google image photos of Ferlic and Chelimo and go back and forth between the two of them, and then you basically got a recap of the race. Those unattached athletes, I scored the meet with unattached athletes based on what school they're in, and I removed an athlete, Kyle Mao, who scored, who finished high, but he doesn't have any cross-country eligibility. So this is only guys who have cross-country eligibility. Michigan finished third with 81 points. Michigan State finished second with 68 points, and Wisconsin won with 21 points. It is noting that Michigan didn't run two of their top guys, but it still wouldn't have been enough to beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin clearly showed off their depth. 21, that's pretty good. I mean, their top guy. Eligibility? Yeah, Hacker has eligibility. Yeah, of course.
Jeez. I feel like
I think he does.
For a while.
He was on the cross country roster for 2020. So, Wisconsin's number one guy, Jack Meyer, he was 52nd at Big Tens last year. Ran 25 minutes for an 8K. So, I guess Wisconsin's able to.
They went 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Was that their squad? Their scoring squad?
They went the score. So their scoring squad was I removed Chelimo and I removed Ferlic, right? So based on scoring points, they got 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Michigan State was 1, 13, 14, 15, 25. Michigan was 10. Michigan was led by Tom Brady. 10, 16, 17, 18, 20. Yeah, so Indiana had a 6 and an 8 there, but they didn't run Ben Veach, so I'm not sure if he's eligible.
There you go.
Anyway, cross country, man. We're pretending it's still happening.
What do you think of Chelimo's chances for Big Tens this year?
In the spring? Dude, it's gonna be a tough one. He just narrowly beat out Beetlescombe. He probably has eligibility somewhere? I mean, he probably get the COVID year, right? Let's get that COVID year.
So Beetlescombe's 5K PR, I looked up 13:30. So he's about 35 seconds back at Chelimo. But hey, the great equalizer, Terre Haute. Terre Haute is a great equalizer. People have always said that. I like how you said at the beginning of this, you said, why would he go to Indiana to run a cross-country race in the middle of November? As if you and I both wouldn't go cover right now, if given the opportunity, a cross-country race in Terre Haute in the middle of November. How dare you? I would go in a second.
Well, it just doesn't make – of all people, I mean, every college kid, it makes sense. It makes sense for college kids to do this. And it's great that these kids got an opportunity to go do like a fake Big Ten quad meet, right? You know, you can see where you stand. And right now, Wisconsin's pretty good based on this. I mean, it's probably, we don't know how it stacks up against other national caliber teams, but Wisconsin definitely has depth, right? They definitely have they're not going to be searching for bodies, right? They're going to have a bunch of bodies to throw at. They're definitely retooled, because obviously they lost back-to-back years. You lose McDonald and you lose Oliver Hoare, but it looks like they're right where they need to be, and they're pretty young. They have a bunch of young guys who ran pretty well, so it's looking good for Wisconsin. And
it's a bummer for them.
One of their top recruits, I think, is transferring out, though. I saw the Stride Report reported that Caleb Brown, who was one of their top high school recruits, is in the portal. So maybe Caleb Brown saw the depth at Wisconsin and is like, dude, I thought I was going to be their number 4 guy as a freshman, and I'm their number 12 guy, so I'm out. Maybe it was that. I don't know. I'm speculating. But,
I was going to say it's too bad for Wisconsin this meet doesn't count towards qualifying because that would probably be enough to put them in the meet, wouldn't you think?
Oh yeah, I did talk to. I mean, so we did a pod about qualifying for NCAAs, how it might be weird for what if you don't have much on your resume? What if the only thing on your resume is your conference championship performance, right? So it's a lot of risk,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because what if you get second or get third in your conference, and does that mean the Sun Belt champion is going to take your spot because you didn't win your own conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to
Yeah.
two coaches about it, and they both didn't seem worried. They both seemed like they had trust in the committee that like they didn't feel like they're going to need to prove themselves outside of conferences. Like that finishing top two in their specific conference or top four in their specific conference, that should be enough. Like they didn't
Mm-hmm.
think that there's going to be a dumb committee member be like, hey, but the MEAC champion was like perfect score.
Yeah,
Why would
yeah.
we take that person over the Washington team that finished fourth at Pac-12? Last time I
Mm-hmm.
checked, first is better than fourth. Apparently, they're not worried that that's going to happen, which would suck if that
So,
happened. But
so you still think top 4 in a Power 5 gets you in?
it should, right? I mean, you could argue even
Yeah.
top 5 for specific conferences, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
at the
So
same
those are
time, like,
serving essentially as de facto mini regions. That's what we have at this
yeah,
point.
it's just going to be hard for a small school without a history to make the meet, right? So like it's going to be easy for Iona if Iona goes out and wins their conference. They'll probably still make the meet. Those because people will be like, oh, Iona, they have a history, they're good. But say you actually are good and you have to be in a like, say you're like, I don't know, like
Tulsa.
Navy or Army. No, Tulsa they'll know because they know
Okay.
Tulsa's good.
Yeah.
But it's like a team that doesn't make nationals that often, and when they do, they get like 30th or like top 25. I'll say like a Navy Army type team, right? There's
Okay.
always like they win the Patriot League, they have a good year. I feel like the winner of the Patriot League might get overlooked because they'll be like, it's the Patriot League. I don't know if it's good, but like, hey, every 2 or 3 years, the winner of the Patriot League actually is a top 25 team. But maybe they won't believe it this time around. I don't know. So I think
Well,
that's like going to be a situation.
those teams got to find somebody. Those teams got to go out and find somebody because it's a situation.
Yeah.
This is just like college. This is like college football. This is like college football. It's
Yeah.
okay. If you're Boise State, you gotta be perfect, and maybe you'll be able to squeak in to a big bowl game because you have the reputation. But if you're not a Boise State, if you're new and you're in a smaller school, you got to go schedule somebody non-conference
Yeah.
in one of those early season games, get a big win, and then blow everybody out in your conference, and then people will pay attention. That's the same thing that these schools you're talking about have to do. They got to find somebody early on in one of the invitationals that are available to them, or schedule a meet, or try to find their way to the nearest Power 5 and beat them decisively. That's the setup that we have now.
It's true. That is the setup we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of, I think COVID athlete of the year. Are we gonna we'll save that for December when we crown our athlete of the years? But we'll have a nominee for COVID athlete
Okay.
of the year. Keira D'Amato. She 15th at the trials, right? So she starts the year with the top
She,
15 finish at the trials.
yep.
But then she goes out and runs this time trial 15 like 04 5K, and everyone's like, "Wait, what? No, that's not right. Maybe they did a half a lap short." Nope, it was right. And now it's becoming more and more not a fluke where she's now like winning against legit competition consistently, and it's not like she had a race of her lifetime. She is legitimately going to be someone that's on the starting line at the outdoor track trials and someone who legitimately will be still in the pack with a mile to go,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of crazy to go from no one even talking about you to now being like, oh yeah, we only got Keira D'Amato there in bid 4. Like she's going to be
Mm-hmm.
a name that people mention. She won't be like a surprise, which is just wild. Anyway,
Yeah,
what did she do this past weekend? She won.
15:07 in a road 5K in Memphis. And I know that the gap between road and track races have shrunk a little bit because of shoe technology. We obviously saw Joshua Cheptegei run that 12:51, and we've seen some super fast times throughout the world in road races. So we know there's not necessarily as big a gap as we used to be accustomed to saying. But I think it's not a reach today. 15:07 on the road is better than her 15:04 on the track. And you could say that on the track, she's definitely in sub 15 shape. You're right. This is an incredible story. 36 years old, was on basically nobody's radar heading in to the year when it comes to track and field. The challenge is going to be, Gordon, she's stepping into what's going to be an extremely tough women's 5 and 10 next year. In any other year, you'd say, oh man, someone can go sub 15, they can make this team. But as we've talked about for a couple months now, it's going to take an effort beyond that. You're going to have to be in better shape than that, we think, to actually make that team. So it's still uphill, but yeah, you're right. Just breakthrough of the year for sure. She's already won it, and there's still 6 weeks left in 2020.
Yeah, she needs to find a way to like package all these performances together to get a running deal. I mean, I'm not sure if she has a sponsorship, but she should definitely be like, hey, give me a 1-year deal. I'll wear whatever you want on the start line at the Olympic trials. I'll say your name over and over again. I'll get a tattoo on my forehead. Let me make some coin in 2021. But
do you think
anyway,
10K is probably her best shot, given that she has experience in the longer stuff? Yeah. So she ran 68:57 in October and a half. And then she's run 32:33 this year in a 10,000. But if you put the 68:57 together with the 15:07 road 5K that she just ran and the 15:04 on the track, I think she can have another breakthrough in the track 10K, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just the question is like, who's gonna it comes down to speed. Track is now just it's a speed event, right? It's not a grinder of just like last woman standing, last man standing, like a marathon. So 5K, it's gonna be hard. You're going up against, Schweizer, Rowberry, you name them, all the people who can have who are like 4:02 1500 meter runners or faster. So 5K is out of the equation. 10K. Also, though, it's going to be interesting because you're going to have Emily Sisson. You're going to have Molly Huddle. And I don't know about you, but just like I would say Paul Chelimo 100 times out of 100 would win that race, I think Molly Huddle 100 times out of 100 would beat Keira D'Amato in an Olympic trials setting on the track.
So yeah, completely think that that's in Huddle's wheelhouse. The issue with D'Amato, though, we just don't know how much better she's going to get because she's doing these things in a weird year. And this one had competition, and that just made it more impressive, right? Because Aisha Prat-Lear, who's a great runner in her own right, was in the 15:30s in this race. So I wonder if D'Amato, when she starts getting in track races with full fields, if she can drop her time even more. But right now, I think you'd have to say, Huddle, Sisson, Mary Hall, Emily Infeld. I'm just naming people straight from the 10,000. Bruce, Taylor, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many women there in the 10 that make it really hard to make that team. I still think another Bowerman person might bump up, be it Fraser or Schweizer too, which would make it even harder to get on that squad. But I have a hard time seeing an Olympic team without Sisson and Huddle on it. And this is their only path left, really. Their best path to it is that 10K. I think they're going to for sure be ready, and they're going to get it done, and that only leaves one spot.
Yeah. The confidence in Huddle and Sisson is a lot higher than it was for the marathon, because even though they were both part of the contenders or picks to be top 3 in the trials in the marathon, in the back of everyone's mind, they all knew like, well, they're not like veterans in the marathon yet. So it made sense when they didn't make the team, as weird as that sounds, because we were just kind of like, well, they're not ready yet. Maybe there'll be more locks if they have another 4 years of marathon training, marathon race experience to get ready, because they've yet to go full marathon, right? They're still dabbling. They're keeping their foot. They're playing both sides of the coin. They're like, they're not closing the door yet on the 10K. And I think in order to be legitimately 100% ready to go in a marathon, you got to close that door in the 10K, like the same way Rupp did. Rupp was like, all right, 10K is done. Yeah, I might do it for shits and giggles here and there, but like, I am a road racer now. And Molly and Emily had yet to do that. Maybe we'll do it after this year, because now they'll be like, all right, 23 more years to kind of be all in on road running.
Yeah, she's a gamer. Like Huddle's like one more point on Huddle. She's just I mean, obviously you trust Jenny Simpson because she's made every team since the Olympics were created and the World Championships were created. But like the same thing you could say about Huddle. And I'm not saying she's going to go on and win a gold medal in the Olympics, but Molly Huddle in a trial setting she's clutch every single time she comes through. So anyway, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say I'm really excited about the next topic on this podcast. Nothing screams 2020 like a whereabouts failure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't have much to add. Elijah Manigoy suspended for 2 years. He laid out why he missed the tests. They didn't accept the explanations, or maybe they did and said, hey, you're still suspended for 2 years. And then he apologized, and that's where we're at. But I think you talked about end of the year awards before. We're going to have to go to like whereabouts violation of the year awards, because there are a lot of contenders this year, Gordon. There are a lot of people who are now suspended. It's incredible.
I wonder how many whereabouts failures you're allowed to have in a relationship. You know, it's like, where were you last night? Oh, I don't know. That's one whereabouts fit. Like, what is it? What's the number?
Update the app. Update the app. I don't know.
Update the app. Eventually, it's gonna be a thing where like, hey, couples therapy are gonna be going to the AIU to like kind of help them track each other to make sure they know where they are on that Friday night.
So. Yeah. No, I wish I could say that this stuff will be behind us in a championship year, but there's no reason to think it would be any different. It's not like people are missing these tests because of COVID, and a lot of these missed tests came, of course, most of them came before 2020 even, that are being adjudicated. So I don't think this shows any sign of slowing down. Manigoy was, obviously he had his moment. I don't think anybody was picking him to medal next year. The event had moved on past him, so I don't know how much it's going to impact moving forward. All it does do is put into question his previous exploits. Although I have the same way you and I talked before about how you have problems with the whole, here's the top 10 list of men's 100-meter sprinters, and here's how many of them have been scarred by doping, either a positive or a missed test. I have the same issue with the stuff with Kenyan runners, because that's now becoming en vogue to say like, oh, look at all the Kenyan runners that have tested positive, like, or have whereabouts violations. I mean, if you believe that Manigoy is like, if you believe in the system and that they caught him, then part of you also has to believe the system in 2017 when he won the gold medal, and that he was showing up to his tests and that he was clean and doing what he was supposed to. So it's tough. Track and field fans can never think of a suspension as just a suspension. It has to be indicative of a larger, more nefarious motive here in ways that other sports don't. And I think we can go too far with that sometimes, especially when we're drawing out broad generalizations across countries or event groups as well too. Because then you end up grouping in Johan Blake serving a 3-month suspension for a stimulant with like someone involved in Balco. It's like, okay, those aren't the same thing. Those are not in any way, shape, or form the same thing. Just as Manigoy testing positive for EPO versus Manigoy missing 3 tests, not the same thing. Not the same thing. That was just my heat caution moment of the day on doping. That's all I have to say.
Hashtag believe all doping violations. Is that the new hashtag you're gonna?
No, I'm just
Don't
saying
believe
I
all
wish
doping
we could.
violations.
And I'm not saying
Nuance.
don't.
Yeah.
Nuance. I'm saying nuance. I'm saying, and I get why they have to sit 2 years, because now we don't know. He didn't show up to the tests and he didn't take the test, so that means that we don't know. But somehow that's jumped in line automatically to he's doping. And obviously the enforcement is tighter. So comparing something now to comparing something 10 years ago seems a little bit difficult to do, to draw a straight line, Same way in other sports with baseball. You can't just be like, oh man, there was 3 positives this year and 0 positives in 1994. I guess 1994, nobody was doing anything wrong. No.
94 was a great year. Let's be honest. It's a great year.
I
People love seeing the ball go into the stands. Give out some free souvenirs. Do you have other
change the topic, please? Just change the topic.
We have other college news. According to Stride Report, Adrian Wildershut is transferring to Florida State.
I thought you were going to say Adrian Wojnarowski.
No. Adrian Wildershut, who is a very good distance runner for Coastal Carolina, going to Florida State. I knew that. I did hear that he was in the portal, but that's a potential, top 25 stick if he stays healthy for Florida State. I don't know if Florida State though has like enough other bullets in their chamber to really compete with, the NAUs, track, BYUs, Arkansas. Track, it helps them a bit, but yeah, they do actually. Now they do have that one distance guy who could help maybe get a point or two. If Florida State was smart, they would go all in on track because they still have a lot of really talented sprinters. And when I was looking at the ranking, when I was looking at the 2021 indoor rankings, I'm trying to start compiling. Basically, everyone is back. Everyone is back except for like the 6 distance athletes that went pro. So like Florida State has a bunch of like sophomores and freshmen who are really fast 60s and 200-meter guys. They're all back. So Florida State was looking to be a contender last year. Now it's basically there's no like, oh, we're out of it now because everyone graduated. No one graduated, right? So
right.
Florida State's still good. And they had some injuries with some of their top guys. They had a lot of good. I remember going down there to film a workout Wednesday with their sprint group. They have a lot of bodies. They have a lot of talented 60 guys, 100 guys. It's very fun to watch. I mean, it was led by Andre Ewers, who now is obviously graduated, but they have like random freshmen just showing up and then running like 6.6 in the 60. You're like, who is this kid? Yeah, Florida State, they should be good indoors. If I was coach, I would say, hey, distance runners, let's not worry about cross. Let's go all in on the indoor track, get a good DMR together, and see if we can win indoors. I mean, it's going to be a thing. It is going to be a thing if we have indoors where some of these Power 5 indoor track heavy programs that can win, who have a cross-country team, may sacrifice their cross-country team for the opportunity to podium indoor. Like, because Florida State is not going to podium cross-country, but if they go all in on indoor, maybe they could podium indoor with their distance guys because the distance fields might be a little weaker, especially the 3K and the DMR and the mile. That this might be your opportunity. So,
you know what we should do, anyway. And by we I mean you. You should come up with a list of the 10 toughest decisions in terms of which race to run, which meet to compete in. And we should talk about that on the pod because I think he would be one of them because I'm assuming he's eligible starting next semester. Okay. So he runs cross. Maybe on a great day he gets 10th. 11th, but it certainly helps the team versus maybe he qualifies in the 5K and 3K and can scrape out 3 points or something between the two. And it would be interesting to see a bunch of other people. I'm assuming some Arkansas guys would be on your list there. On the women side, maybe Stanford, or maybe, like you said before, these schools that have a good sprint, jump, field. Jump is field. I don't know why I did the same thing. The people who are just looking, they're more sprint focused, but they're looking for a couple points from the distance side of things, and they would pull somebody out of cross country. Those are the interesting ones.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, here's the question. How much would running an indoor championship level 5K on a Friday affect your cross country performance on a Monday?
Well, you interviewed Connor Mance. He said his second race is usually better. So I think it just depends on the athlete. And I think at most of these schools, track is going to get priority. So the fact that the track meet comes first would lead them to be able to possibly do both. So that's why you're going to really need to dig deep for this assignment that I gave you, and not me, to figure out like who's really in this pickle here. Maybe there's like a little more balance, right? Maybe they want to do good in both, and they got to figure out how to maximize it.
Like if you're Luis Grijalva, he would be the favorite in the 3K, right?
Right.
But would he like not run a 3K because he feels like he has a chance to win cross country? Because that means you're running on a Saturday to Monday. Like could here's the main thing. Most of the best distance athletes do the 5K 3K double, right?
Right.
That's basically how it is. The Joe Kleckers, Grijalvas, and Connor Mance is like 5K 3K 5K 3K. Or it's DMR 3K, right? The best distance athletes do the DMR 3K, 5K 3K double. Is it? I think we're just assuming that then basically all these distance runners are just going to do the 5K cross country double or the DMR cross country double, right? Where you have all day Saturday off, all day Sunday off, or even crazier, maybe a 3K cross country double. Do you think there will be any athlete? And there's not many who will do this. I guess the only ones who would do this would be a Wesley Kiptoo, a Connor Mance, a Wayne Kaladi, a Whitney Orton. There's not Luis Grijalva. It's a small list. Okay, maybe not Whitney Orton, but yeah, you know what I mean. There's a small list of maybe 10 athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think any of them will do a 5K, 3K cross country triple?
Yeah, I think people will. You mentioned Grijalva before. I haven't spent as much time around Grijalva as you have, but the time I do have spent around Luis, he seems like a guy who wants to be in every single race. So I think it's going to be really hard to get him not to run for. Okay, imagine this scenario. Imagine you win one of those. You're on a roll. You're going to want to stop winning? I think you'd want to keep going. That'd be awesome. Or you get All-American. Like, wouldn't you want to pile up 3 of those in a weekend? This is a good list, though. You can make
this list too. But you also, what if you want to? What if you run though, and you don't, and you have a bad opener 5K, then the 3K is just like you're getting through it, and then you just feel burnt out going into your cross country race, and all of a sudden you used up all your energy on these indoor meets, and some guy who you thought was going to be top 10 finishes 60th. Like,
yeah,
was it worth the 50-point loss? You know?
Yeah, and again, this is where the team element comes in. But you're right. You said this only applies to about 10 people, and as you mentioned with Kaladi before, she's head and shoulders above everybody else right now in the NCAA. So she could have a bad race in cross country. Maybe she loses, but I don't think she's going to fall. She's going to fall to 50th, right? So she gets 4th in cross country. Does that really hurt New Mexico's team chances that much compared to what the other 4 members of the team do? So she costs them maybe 3 points maximum, and you give her a chance to go for it. I think they're going to want to race. I think they're going to want to race because what's happened over the last year, and it's going to be hard to contain them. I think where it's going to become bigger issue is what you described before, where they are the deciding factor for their team. And if they're the deciding factor for their team and they can go either way, then the coaches are going to be a little bit more cautious about what they do. But I could see Grijalva doing just the 5K and then skipping the 3K and then running cross. I could see that as a possibility.
Yeah.
Or
But
maybe
if, like my thing is, if everyone skips the 3K, because that's what I'm thinking. Like, it's just be natural to skip the 3K because you're either going to do the 5K or the DMR. So like Nagoose won't do the 3K, Cooper Tier won't do the 3K, like and then all of a sudden you're like a 758 guy, and you're
James West national
finishing
title,
third.
James West Redemption Tour,
right?
from DQ in the 1500 to NCAA champ. Yeah, that's a possibility. That's a possibility, and that's why they're going to try to game this out. And I'm sure a lot of coaches are going to spend a lot of hours trying to figure out where to put people. I think, though, if you can do 10K one day off, 5K on the track, you could do 3K one day off a 10K cross. Is it ideal?
But can you do 5K, 3K one day off, 10K?
I think some people will.
10K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some people will. I don't think, again, it's going to go south for some people. But listen, you're the guy who made Oliver Horse sign up for 7 events indoors a couple years ago and turned him into a zombie in Birmingham. Like, how different is that?
That was funny.
You just want to have as many shots as you can at it. So I'm surprised you haven't tried to find somebody who do the quad, the Cheserek triple at indoors plus cross country. Why are we not talking about that, Gordon? Why are we shying away from the opportunity for greatness?
I mean,
Wesley Kiptoo.
Who would? No, because I get.
Put him on a relay team with Festus Legat.
We don't know if he's a good
automatic
miler.
title.
Is he a good miler? Is Wesley Kiptoo a
Sure
good
he is.
miler? Is it worth putting him in a DMR? I don't know.
He's going to have such a big lead because he's on the team with Festus Legat. They're going to be up at least 10 seconds by the time he gets the baton because Festus will have had the baton, and then
I guess
they just cruise.
You could probably say the person most prepared for that, or most like gifted for that, would be Cooper Tier, because we know he can run a good mile. He was on their miler, the NCAA record holding DMR. He can run the 5K.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then do the 3K and then be a top 10 guy in the 10K. So, Cooper Tier, get ready. You're running
They also have depth. They also have a lot of people in Oregon, so they won't need to do that.
19,600 meters.
It would make a good story. I think we need to dive into this more, though. I think this in and of itself is worth its own episode of all the paths. You can make like a choose your own adventure. Like which path do they choose? And then all the butterfly effects from it. If Kaladi goes here, then this happens. It's just it's a flow chart person's dream, basically.
So many permutations. So many.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you should come up with there's a lot of different ways to talk about this, but you should come up with like some crazy scenarios here too. Like figure out a way for some really insane person to win a national title. I think that's what you should do.
I did try to figure out a way for NAU to win indoors and cross country.
There you go. This is what I want. I want in November, December, we don't have much to talk about. I just want insane Gordon theories for the rest of the month. The rest of the year, actually.
Don't hear my NAU's indoor cross country team title double.
Sure. We don't have enough NAU talk, so hit me with it.
Yeah, you don't have enough NAU talk. But Theo Quacks just does the mile because he just trains for the mile. They don't even need him in cross country. Their 5K squad will be Grijalva, Nur, Rath, and Farrow. Their 3K squad will be Grijalva and Hasty. Their DMR would be Hasty. They have this random 48-second guy that is from Australia, I think, coming in, Nayak, who can run a 400. They have a good 800-meter kid, a 150 800 kid, and then Nico Young anchored to DMR. And then their cross-country team will be Grijalva, Young, Nur, Corey Gorgas, Raf, Bosley, and Farrow. So basically, Young does the DMR 10K double. Grijalva does the triple 5K, 3K, 10K. Nur does 5K, 10K. And then you keep Corey Gorgas and Drew Bosley fresh for cross country.
Are you CCing Mike Smith on this right now?
Yeah.
How many times do you think he laughed when he heard that?
No, he said he didn't laugh. He appreciated it. Hey, so there's the score 41 points with this squad. 41. How awesome would it be if they scored the same number of points in indoor as they do in cross country? That would be ultimate symmetry. Where they have the highest and the lowest with the same number. Perfect time. Anyway,
is 40
enough NAU talk.
Is 41 gonna win indoors? You think?
Maybe. Why not? Right? You never know what's gonna happen. Okay. You don't know who's there. I mean, it's gonna be a weird year. Normally 50 wins indoor, right? But we've seen crazy things now. Like, we have no idea what's gonna happen. There's we can't compare what happens this season compared to any other season. Especially we don't know how people are qualifying. So
I remember last year we were talking about 40 potentially being enough because of how fractured all the points were, and if that was going to be the new normal. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. We'll leave it there. On a future episode, Gordon will dive more into the stuff. It's going to be exciting, and I'll just be here to poke and prod and try to find the most ridiculous statement. Thank you to Alon for producing FloTrack Podcast at gmail.com. Please write in. Lincoln and I will be with you guys tomorrow. Talk to you guys then.